Welcome to the deep dive. If you feel like you need a crash course in AI every few weeks just to keep up, believe me, you are definitely not alone. Tech news moves so fast it's almost reckless. And sometimes, well, you just need that expert shortcut, right? To cut through the noise, separate the hype from the real fundamental shifts. So today we've sliced through a pretty hefty stack of sources for you. All the really crucial Retter Reboot news, focusing on the biggest moves in AI tech and, importantly, business strategy happening right now. It's a lot, it's dense, but we think we've pulled out the key nuggets.
Yeah, and our mission for you, the listener, is pretty sharp, pretty targeted today. We're going to quickly extract the most important insights about how AI is fundamentally changing its role. You see, it's not just a fancy tool you log into anymore. It's rapidly becoming integrated infrastructure, essential stuff across, well, everything commerce, social media, how businesses actually work day to day.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. And I think there's really no better place to start than the company that just keeps setting the pace financially and technologically, OpenAI. I mean, if you're wondering if the market sees them as building infrastructure, just look at the money, right? The money that's poured in recently. We are talking about a massive, almost unbelievable vote of confidence financially. Their recent share sale, $6.6 billion. It didn't just break records. It resulted in this staggering valuation of $500 billion, $500 billion, for a company that, by traditional metrics is still figuring out its revenue streams.
That is exactly the core insight here. I mean, this valuation, it's not based on their current profits, not like you'd value a normal software company. What's fascinating really is that the market seems to be assigning them, like a utility valuation. Think a massive energy company or a telecom giant. And why does that matter to you? Well, a utility provider gets valued not just on immediate profit, but because its service is seen as foundational, indispensable. It suggests, very little competition at the core, and maybe more importantly, extremely high switching costs for the businesses building their whole stack on OpenAI's models. It signals foundational dominance.
And they're certainly using that dominance, aren't they? Expanding quickly into new areas, especially consumer territory. They didn't just polish up their video model. They released Sora 2, and boom, immediately launched an entire social app built around generative video.
Yeah.
So this app, it's all about AI-powered video creation, video sharing. It lets users, generate, edit, post short-form videos right there. Think about it. Type a prompt and bam, a polished little clip is ready to share instantly.
Yeah, and connecting that to the bigger picture, strategically, this is a very aggressive move. It's designed, really, to challenge the giants head-on. They're positioning the Sora 2 app as a direct, maybe even existential rival to platforms like TikTok, like Instagram Reels. They seem to be betting that the future of entertainment isn't just user-generated stuff, but generative stuff, which, flips the whole script. Suddenly, the edge isn't just about having the most human creators, the network effect. It's about who offers the most compelling, most instantly gratifying creative tool.
That's a huge play for people's time and attention, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think for me, maybe the most disruptive piece of news in this whole batch is seeing ChatGPT push so decisively into autonomous commerce agents.
Yeah.
This isn't just like recommending a shoe because you looked at one before. The sources are detailing that the new chatbots are now fully enabled to browse different retailers, make smart recommendations, select things, negotiate even, and critically, purchase products for users.
Right. And this just raises fundamental questions, doesn't it? Economically, behaviorally, we're shifting from consumer shopping to, well, agent shopping. If I tell my AI, hey, buy me the most efficient fridge under $1,200, and it just handles the whole transaction eponymously, how does that change the role of, say, Amazon or other e-commerce platforms we use every day? It radically decentralizes the decision-making, doesn't it? Retailers are now potentially selling to AI agents, not directly targeting human eyeballs in the same way. It implies a huge shift in friction, payments get easier, logistics simpler, but what about brand loyalty? How do you even market your stuff if an AI is making the final call based purely on, utility and price?
It really is a paradigm shift. And I wonder how quickly people will actually get comfortable letting a bot handle their credit card details all over the web. But look, OpenAI isn't operating in a vacuum, right? The speed they're moving at is being matched by some really targeted strategies from their massive competitors.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears and look at Amazon. They're leveraging their unique strengths, unveiling something they call the model factory.
Exactly. And the key here is the data. This system trains next-gen AI, but it's powered by, the institutional knowledge from Amazon's own gigantic operations. We're talking millions of retail transactions, super complex global logistics data, insights from AWS. Everything. So while OpenAI might be focused on more, let's say, generic intelligence, Amazon is building models optimized for specific, real-world, high-stakes stuff. Their AI inherently understands supply chains, inventory, fulfillment, because it learned from the biggest commerce dataset on the planet. That gives them a huge advantage against generalists like OpenAI or Google, especially for business applications. Their AI is immediately useful for commerce and logistics at scale.
Okay, makes sense. Meanwhile, Google seems to be fighting the war for the home operating system. They've launched a major Gemini-powered smart home revamp, new app design, new AI cameras, the works. The goal seems pretty clear. Bake Gemini deep into our physical environment, our homes.
Yeah, and this is Google playing to their strengths, right? Context information retrieval, they want Gemini to be the brain of your house, making things more personal, more automated, more secure, really integrating with your digital life. By embedding Gemini deeper into just everyday things like predicting when to adjust the heat or recognizing specific people at the door, they're aiming to solidify their spot in the connected home market. It's a direct response to Amazon's Alexa, sure, and Apple Home too. This whole battle for the home, it's about generating that really valuable, intimate user data to feed their big models.
And then there's this major new challenger coming from a very familiar high-level insider. Mir Moradi, former OpenAI CTO, has launched the Tinker API through her new venture, Thinking Machines Lab. And this seems like a direct challenge to the sort of closed nature of the current AI ecosystem, right?
Absolutely. The key feature, the big selling point of Tinker API, is that it's designed to let developers customize AI models much more easily, much more deeply than before.
Okay, customize how?
Well, think about it. OpenAI, Google. They often present these powerful models, but they're kind of like black boxes, aren't they? One-size-fits-all solutions. Tinker API is positioning itself as the alternative for developers who need something highly tailored, maybe for specific industries like specialized medical coding or bespoke financial risk analysis. Developers, especially in regulated fields or dealing with sensitive data, they need flexibility, they need control. Tinker's basically saying, look, get the power of a large language model, but you actually get to fine-tune its behavior, its parameters, without needing your own supercomputer. This focus on, let's call it developer sovereignty, could definitely carve out a significant niche. It could pull in enterprise clients who are maybe a bit wary of relying too heavily on closed systems.
That really does make the competitive landscape feel much more dynamic. Okay, let's shift gears again maybe to segment 3 here and focus on how these companies are actually planning to monetize all this heavy AI investment, which leads us straight into some pretty contentious areas. Meta, for instance, they apparently have explicit plans to sell targeted ads using insights drawn from users' actual AI chat interactions.
Well, I can't say I'm shocked, but this is exactly where that promise of personalized AI really clashes quite intensely with user expectations, isn't it? I mean, Meta has this massive incentive to monetize their AI investments, obviously, but using conversational data, which, let's be honest, most users probably assume is private or at least only used for the immediate task, using that for ad targeting, that crosses a significant line behaviorally. You know, historically, companies gather data on what you clicked, what you bought, relatively straightforward. Now, they're potentially analyzing the context, the sentiment, the intent from your detailed conversations with an AI. It's definitely a powerful new vector for ad targeting, no doubt. But it demands, I think, an unprecedented level of clarity around user consent. And that's going to be tested legally and ethically for sure.
Yeah, that feels like a whole can of worms right there. Okay, shifting to enterprise productivity, which is where AI really, as you said, becomes infrastructure. Let's look at Microsoft. They're adding a feature called Vibe Working into the Office suite, specifically within apps like Teams and Outlook. So this is AI-driven collaboration, but it's designed not just to, transcribe meetings, but to actively improve how groups work together, summarizing discussions, suggesting next steps,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
It's a perfect example of AI infrastructure making itself indispensable. It's about making Copilot more than just a handy writing assistant. They're positioning it as almost a mandatory participant in every meeting. Vibe Working uses contextual AI to analyze the tone, track sentiment within a team discussion. It can apparently identify when a topic is dragging or maybe when a decision needs to be made quickly. By doing this, Microsoft really strengthens Copilot's edge against Google Workspace or Notion AI. They're ensuring their AI is right there, central to every team's workflow, which makes their entire Office suite incredibly sticky. Proper infrastructure.
Okay, interesting. And finally, in this section, let's look at this fascinating mix of social and commerce with DoorDash. We tend to think of them purely as logistics, right? Delivery. But they've launched a creator program for short-form videos, paying people to make food content, alongside new app features and even dine-in rewards. Why is a delivery company suddenly acting like TikTok?
Huh. Well, it's all about loyalty and time spent in the app, isn't it? DoorDash seems to realize that just delivering food is becoming a commodity. There are lots of options, so their strategy looks like merging social content. Where people often browse for food ideas before they're actually hungry, merging that with the actual delivery transaction. They want you spending more time in their ecosystem, not just opening the app when your stomach rumbles. By adding rewards for dining in restaurants and integrating this creator content, they're trying to build a whole loyalty loop. The more engaged you are with their content, the thinking goes, the less likely you are to hop over to Uber Eats or Grubhub to compare prices. It's using social infrastructure to lock in the commercial side.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, that brings us neatly to our fourth segment, which is crucial for infrastructure. The underlying efficiency. The iterative improvements that actually make all these fancy applications affordable and fast enough to use. And we are seeing those steady, incremental releases from the big players, keeping the pressure on Anthropic. Anthropic, for example, released Claude Sonnet 4.5. The focus doesn't seem to be some massive, headline-grabbing breakthrough, but rather significant gains in efficiency, especially around reasoning, problem-solving, and coding.
Yes, and that's actually an extremely smart strategic play for Anthropic. They're deliberately building a reputation for reliable, sustained performance improvement, especially for those critical business tasks like detailed data analysis or handling complex documents. So while the world is buzzing about, the potential of GPT-5 or the next big Gemini model, Anthropic is appealing directly to the enterprise user, the user who values predictability, consistent improvements for their existing workflows. They're really strengthening Claude's niche as the sort of reliable, professional-grade option, steady progress.
Right. Reliability and cost. And speaking of cost, there's also this breakthrough in the actual model architecture from DeepSeek. They unveiled a sparse attention model. Now, this gets a bit technical, but for you, the listener, the key benefit here is that this type of architecture can process really long context tasks. Think deep research, analyzing huge code bases, complex document reviews that can do that far more efficiently and at a substantially lower cost.
Yeah, this is potentially huge. The ability to maintain high accuracy while seriously reducing the computational load needed, that's a massive step. Long context windows, which you really need for deep analysis, are incredibly expensive to run with the traditional dense models we've mostly seen. Sparse attention models chip away at that cost barrier. And that means enterprise users running AI at scale, financial institutions, legal firms, research labs, they might finally be able to adopt these long context capabilities as core infrastructure without absolutely crippling their budgets. Efficiency in this AI world is ultimately what drives mass adoption. It has to be affordable to become true infrastructure.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground there. The big shifts, the new infrastructure plays, the competitive strategies heating up. If you had to distill it, what's the single most important takeaway for the listener from all this?
I think the shift is really complete now. We are definitely past the novelty stage. AI isn't just getting incrementally better, it's becoming the sort of silent operating system for almost every sector. We saw it everywhere today, didn't we? From autonomous agents literally shopping for you to AI analyzing the vibe in your team meetings. These features are making AI unavoidable, deeply integrated, and frankly, indispensable infrastructure for consumers and for businesses.
Yeah, and what stands out to me is that while OpenAI's dominance is still very real, backed by that incredible funding, it's now being seriously challenged. But challenged by these highly targeted, integrated strategies. You've got Amazon and Google leveraging their unique data and platform advantages, and then niche players like Tinker API, challenging the closed system model directly, focusing on developer control. It feels like the next phase of the AI war is really about that deep infrastructure integration, not just who has the biggest model number. All right, and finally, as always, a provocative thought for you to chew on this week, given that we just talked about ChatGPT now being able to autonomously research and purchase complex products for you online. What is the next task? The next thing traditionally handled by us, by human consumers, maybe something you do weekly, perhaps even grudgingly, that you predict will be entirely and safely outsourced to an AI agent. Let that one sink in as you navigate your week.